I'm Mihu, the alchemist for Mother Earth Alchemy, and for a lot of this formula that I'm about to share, I rely on memories from my time as a priest in Egypt, and I was born about 100 years before the birth of Akhenaten, who was the Moses, and I left on the Exodus with the tribes. Okay, so this video is about making traditional manna. Now, there may be times in the near future where if you want to still consume manna and share it with your family and people that are, loved ones and stuff, you may want to be able to make it without electronic stuff, which may not work. It might, but it may not. You might want to make it without measuring instruments, which might not be there with you anymore. If you've run. You might have. You might not. You might want to make it with things, stuff that's around that is good quality stuff that you can't get from a store anymore. You might. Who knows? The stores might be there, or they might not. Now, this is the manna that we taught the tribes to make during the Exodus. This is what we would make all the time, and we added it to a green algae, like blue-green algae. And there were times during the Exodus where that was pretty much all we ate. It was desert, it was kind of hard times. But we had this preparation of ormus with blue-green algae, and pretty much you didn't need to take much of anything else than that. We did consume quite a bit of that, and it had its effect on our intestines to eat that much blue-green algae and wonder where you're going to hide behind a bush when there aren't any and you're in the desert. But it's the truth. You get over your embarrassment of being nude right away. There's the camel. Go behind the camel. Anyway, this is how to make that manna and make it a nice concentrated preparation that's made totally naturally, totally without equipment. I laughed so hard I was crying, tears coming out of my eyes. It's funny how as I start talking about this stuff, memories start coming up. I hadn't remembered that one before, and it's true. It's like, it's the early part of taking, only eating manna. And so this is the steps and the materials and that sort of thing for making traditional manna. So here's one option that is natural stuff, and it's a hardwood chip. You could use this. These are mesquite chips, and they make a great, it's much like the desert stuff we used to use. So this is a salt of magnesium that is my choice for a really good salt to capture your ormus once you've made it. And it's nigari, and it is a Japanese or Oriental. You can find this in any Oriental store, and it's used in making soy preparations. Anyway, it's made from seaweed, so it's very high also in iodine, and it's very good. Now, instead of this, if you are near some sort of seawater, you can use half seawater and half very concentrated, like glacial water or volcanic water. Those two kinds of water are the most concentrated ormus waters. So, and then adding something like this to it you can either use this 3/4 cup per gallon, or you can use seawater and dilute it 50-50 with really, really good high ormus water.
Cut that bit out.
It didn't show, but so this is the ash as it should look once it's completely processed. I'm just showing you a little of it here. So what the next step is to take the ash, put it in a container of some sort, add about twice as much water to it, but you want to add, even in this step, you want to always add really good water that has a very high ormus content. So now we got our 3/4 cup of salt, and we're going to add it to 1 gallon of good, really good water. You want to make sure this water is really good. Okay, this is like a volcanic source water, or you want to make sure it's or like glacial water, or water that's underneath the ice on a frozen lake, you know, during the winter. That water is full of ormus. It's full of monatomic elements coming up out of the earth. The earth supplies the best, very, very best monatomic elements you can get and make. What you want to do is refine it. You're going to refine this stuff. Okay, so now we've let this it is lye solution, which is mostly potassium hydroxide. It's the traditional lye solution that people used to make soap out of, and it's traditional lye, and it doesn't come out, you know, pretty and clean and white. It comes out more like, as you can see, it's a bit like urine yellow. If you let it sit a little longer, it will be browner, but it will be stronger. And usually you want to let it sit at least a day. And then I've got a coffee filter that I'm pouring it through here. Don't have to use a coffee filter. You can actually just, you know, use a piece of cloth. So in a pinch, you can grab somebody's t-shirt and go, hey, I gotta use a t-shirt for a minute. And then you got your lye solution. So this is your lye solution, and we're going to add it to the salt, and we're going to add it till it gets to a certain consistency. Okay, so now we're adding a natural indicator for the pH, and that natural indicator is grapes. And in traditional times, we used to use raisins, and we used to reconstitute them. But here I have grapes. I'm going to just squeeze some of this grape juice into there. And what will happen is, as it finally reaches pH 10, it will turn to a very dark inky color. It's very nice, very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and pour a little of that liquid right in. That ought to do it. But there you go. Okay, so this is pretty dilute on the side of the inkiness, and this is how people make ink, is with this stuff here. You know, traditionally they would take grapes and make grape juice, and then they would add lye. So we got the grapes, we got the grape juice, and now we're ready to make the ormus stuff. Now what we want to look for in the ormus stuff is a milky. We want to go until it's pretty milky. We don't want it to be real thin and like that. We want it to be more of a thick, like an opaque color. So I'm just going to add a little at a time and keep stirring, and eventually it'll get very opaque and it will turn colors. You notice it's already starting to get opaque. And notice it's turning color, but it's not yet inky. That's an ancient god, isn't it? Inky. And you notice it's still clear. It's still pretty clear, and it'll turn kind of a very dark color when it reaches the right pH. And of course this kind of ormus is going to have all kinds of chunky natural things in it. Going to be like something you're going to strain out with your teeth. But you can make this, no need of any kind of modern measuring equipment or anything. Notice it's still kind of clear, but it's getting more opaque. It's getting there. It's a little better to have fresh grape juice. This grape juice that I have here wasn't very fresh, but oh, there it goes. Look at the difference. Look how the color's changing. Now, just for fun, I'm going to get a meter and show you where the pH is at. So just as predicted, we're right at pH 10. And you notice that just as we hit pH 10, as we predicted, the color of it changed. And we could go further. I'll add just a little bit more to get a little bit more precipitation. But we really don't need to. It shows up as 10.3, and you know, that's pretty damn close. And we did that again without any instruments or anything. You notice it changed. There's another way you can tell, and it is you smell your lye, and the lye has a smell. And what happens is the salt will absorb all of the smell of the lye up till the point where it's at 10.7. So we can go just a little further. I'm not going to go much further because this is the point where it goes jumping way high if you're not careful. See, actually, 10.3 is totally enough. There we go. I think that's probably all I'm going to add. I'm going to go ahead and let this settle. And we have our traditional ormus, which doesn't look like the pretty white stuff that's made with all of the refined machinery and all that. But you know what? I think when you try it, if you can grow with it, you can culture with it, you can make preparations like you can grow, do it with wine and yeast and grape juice and yeast, or fruit juice and yeast, or mash up some fruit with yeast and have something digested, like what we used to do was with a green algae, blue-green algae. And if you add all that stuff in there, it's so nutritious, you don't actually need to eat anything else for a while until your hunger totally overcomes you and you're you're going, where's the promised land? Okay. So you carefully pour off the water that's on top, and you'll see that the bulk of it stays inside there. Yep, there it is. And then you want to make sure to use good, this is glacial water I'm using, and on this one, using really good, very high ormus water. It's very important from whatever source you get it. And you'll see right away it begins to settle. The ormus is much heavier than the water, and you do this 2 or 3 times. You can do it in a larger container and pour more at a time and do less rinses. Whatever lye is left and whatever salt is left are water soluble. So when you do this, the ormus will rinse out the extra lye and the extra salt that hasn't been used in making the manna. You can see that after just an hour it is settled by 75–80%. So we just pour the top water off again. Slosh it around. We do the same thing a number of times. Just rinsing that precipitate out. I've measured out the exact amount of wood ash lye that it took to make our first batch. I've mixed a bucket with exactly the same amount of salt and water, and I'm going to see how it comes out when I do it this way. And now we let it settle and see how it comes out. See, here it is after just an hour. It's once again very settled. And pour the top water right off. And you see the manna ormus, or ormus manna, is pretty white. It's kind of got a little bit of a yellowish color, but that's okay. It's not too bad. That's how you make Old Testament manna in the way we used to make it during the Exodus. And it's a little difficult if you've been consuming the white, clear, gelatin stuff, which, of course we make that, and it's nice because we have the chemicals and all that, and we precisely put them together to come out as pretty and beautiful. But that's not how it was back then, and we had to have ways of doing things without all of even the stuff that was in Egypt. Egypt had a lot of high technology that when we got out, when we started booking it across the desert, we didn't have all that stuff anymore, and we had to figure out ways of doing it. But we knew the basic elements of making manna, and so we made it. But also, the thing of it is, if you make this traditional manna, even though it's an odd color, it's kind of like getting used to consuming brown rice instead of white fluffy rice. Oh, there's something wrong with this rice. No, it's actually pretty darn good for you. So I hope you enjoyed it, and keep watching. Subscribe so that you can get alerted when we put up new videos on all these different subjects that we're going through.